And we're back with Richard Reviews. Today we're reviewing a book for richardreviews.com/Griffin Chestnut here on Griffin Chestnut's Word. He is back with us today. Richard is reviewing this book for us that he has read. Richard came across this book through his online correspondence, and the book is titled Anime Impact: The Movies and Shows That Changed the World of Japanese Animation. And this is by Chris Stuckmann, author of The Film Buff's Bucket List. Contributions include Ernest Cline, John Rodriguez, Doug Walker, Robert Walker, and many others. So this book was offered to Richard in the late years past of the future pandemic, and Richard felt that he needed to read this, considering the fact that he is an avid fan of anime and Japanese animation altogether. Richard has seen a fair amount of anime. He's read a fair amount of manga throughout his time. And today, Richard is reviewing this piece for us, which he completed very briefly. As a piece on its all, this is Richard's piece, so it's a rare piece. These pieces are not hard to find. It's a pretty premium package deal, but Richard was able to acknowledge this fact, whether he had some form of communication, some weird historical discrepancies, and some letters that would have been there before the time of his personal opinion. Not only did he find this piece teetering on the boring side, but he understood that Chris Stuckmann's passion for this might even be exploited through the fact that he delves into things that aren't really his niche or his professionalism, by the say. Richard does consider this piece a pretty cool piece in the letters and the footnotes that bring to his notion. Unfortunately for Chris Stuckmann, this piece falls dry in a lot of his opinionated values. Not only does this piece bring a great amount of fantastic pieces of art to Richard's attention, it ultimately brought nothing new to the table. Nothing new that wasn't said before. So that unfortunately is going to bring some points down for this book. Richard wrote his entire thesis on this. He wrote a full-scale review, which he uploaded to his blog. You can find that in the link in the description. We're going to take a look at this piece. It is a rather big piece. It's also very bright and busy, trying to attract the reader in. As you can see, it's a little obnoxious from the cover point, but we'll get into that right now. Richard keeps all his pieces in really good condition, so we're going to see. It is a hardcover, though. Rarity in the Richard form, and it's a pretty lengthy piece, as you can tell. It's not a bad. They definitely put this together pretty well, as you can tell. On the side, of course, we have what appears to say Anime Impact. Chris Stuckmann. Yes, that's Chris Stuckmann. And over here it says Mango. Okay, so on the back we have more praise for this individual and the book, which include a lot of Studio Ghibli films, a lot of big names in anime like One Piece, Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, Naruto, or of course Attack on Titan. So Chris apparently has a lot to say about these, and he also has a sort of fanboy nerd nostalgic personality, in which is mentioned in at least the third chapter of this book, which he also passed around through the majority of his narration. His introspective look on this is sort of a testament to his lack of knowledge in the area and genre of what he's discussing. That's not to say that he is anything less of an interested introvert. It's more or less to say he's a little less educated on the topic at hand. More importantly, the historical facts that he proclaims to at least pronounce in this piece are not only well known, but easily found online, which gave no significant credence to his actual education and research. So on the bottom we have Mr. Chris Stuckmann right here. You can tell he is smiling. There he is. He seems very happy that you're reading his book. And he also claims to be a filmmaker, writer, and film critic. None of these things have been proven, or at least shown any light of. Chris Stuckmann is also very proliferant and a little bit biased towards the agriculture of late Japanese, post-Japanese 1950s, which he also makes no notion to and no mention in this piece. It's not to say Richard did not enjoy this piece. He felt that Chris tried his hardest to make a impactful piece and really wrap it up in the notion of what it takes to make a book. He just thinks that he's a big amateur, and he should consider doing more research before publishing anything of such a magnum quality as this. So inside, as we take a look, Richard felt that he covers the topics and pieces through chapter to chapter, ratio to ratio, and he does label them by year, which is a little relevant considering the fact that we're going through time through a Japanese animation studio. He also promotes imagery and psycholimpics warfare, prompting a lot of symbolism and different recommendations to the average reader, which you can find at the end at his footnotes and his index in a very inappropriate manner. Needless to say, Richard enjoyed this because almost all of these pieces and art pieces that Chris acknowledges in this is ultimately was already seen by Richard. Richard had found all of these already. Nothing new was brought to the table with this piece. A lot of blank pages at the end. A page just directed to this man, which is obviously a waste of a page here. And more attributes in his writing style. His writing style and his vocabulary is also a little low compared to what Richard is normally used to, considering he reads a lot of the great Shakespeare's and the Dostoevskys of the Russian literature, the Leo Tolstoys, and of course some Vonnegut, Charles Bukowski, and other greats. Chris Stuckmann, unfortunately, sits low at the list, way by the bottom in the other authors that Richard has read. Richard hasn't read many of the contributions that helped Chris with this, except for one of Ernest Cline, who, ironically enough, Richard considers to be at the bottom with Chris Stuckmann, as he provided almost nothing worthwhile above a mere 5 in Richard's rating scale that was worth mentioning past the religious, interesting text that was given to Richard himself. Richard also mentioned that the biblical ideas that are mentioned in this book don't really change for him. The accounts from the church talking about different animes of the Japanese culture doesn't really resonate well with a uncommon reader for somebody who doesn't really know too much about anime. Richard finds that this was a lack of attention to detail on Chris's part. Chris Stuckmann, being apparently a film critic, should know at least a little bit about the flow of ideas and the flow of words in a piece of art. Unfortunately, none of this was seen in Chris Stuckmann's piece, and Richard felt that more education was needed on Chris Stuckmann's part. So, there you have it. This is Richard. Richard is with us today, and that's Richard's review for Chris Stuckmann's book, Chris Stuckmann's piece, this piece that Chris Stuckmann has put out, titled Anime Impact, the Movies and Shows That Changed the World of Japanese Animation. This is by Chris Stuckmann, and it is affiliated by other writers as well, and this is Richard's review, Richard's official review, which you can find here on his website. And that is it for Richard Reviews. Catch us next time for richardreviews.com/GriffinChestnut here on richardreviews.com. Thank you. Goodbye.